Some stories catch us off guard and make us question the depths of human cruelty and the strength of a true bond. Picture this. A biker, for no apparent reason, decides to take out his frustration on a defenseless dog. What he didn't know? That dog was more than just a pet. He was the loyal companion of none other than Keanu Reeves. What happened next is something you need to hear. Get ready for a tale of shocking injustice, inspiring courage, and, above all, a powerful reminder that good can triumph, even in the face of the cruelest acts. It was supposed to be just another peaceful day on set. The sun peeked timidly through the clouds, and the mild weather seemed to promise a smooth production. Keanu Reeves, ever humble and reserved, was already on set, surrounded by the admiration and respect of the crew. Known for his attention to detail and his fondness for animals, he had a special companion with him for the shoot, Buddy, a pit bull with a gentle gaze and a striking presence. Everything seemed perfectly aligned for another successful John Wick sequence, but then the calm was shattered in an instant like thunder on a clear day. The chaos began in the most surreal way. Across the street, a group of bikers parked their motorcycles, and the atmosphere seemed to shift instantly. The roaring engines echoed ominously, as if foreshadowing something dark. One of the men, visibly agitated, began shouting for no apparent reason, drawing curious and uneasy glances. While the crew tried to ignore the scene, Buddy, curious and confident, approached with his tail wagging, blissfully unaware of the tension in the air. And then, the unexpected happened. Without warning, the most aggressive biker lashed out with a hard kick at Buddy, eliciting a yelp of pain from the dog and a gasp of shock from everyone nearby. Time seemed to freeze. Keanu, watching from a distance, stood motionless for a moment before his calm eyes filled with steely determination. This wasn't just an act of cruelty. It was an affront to something sacred, respect for the innocent and defenseless. The scene, meant to be fictional, suddenly took on a harsh and disturbing reality. The silence broke as someone on the crew shouted for the biker to stop, but the tension had already reached its boiling point. While Buddy, trembling, tried to retreat, Keanu walked over, scooped the dog into his arms, and locked eyes with the aggressor. His look said it all. He would not let this go unchallenged. It was as if the spirit of John Wick himself had overtaken Keanu in that moment. The entire crew stood frozen, waiting to see what would happen next. And so, what began as just another day on the John Wick set turned into a whirlwind of emotions. No one could have guessed that one thoughtless act would set off a chain of events, even more intense. But as in every great story, this was only the beginning. After the commotion, Keanu decided Buddy needed a moment of calm, away from the set and all the chaos. Without a word, he clipped the leash onto the pit bull's collar and started walking through nearby streets, seeking a quiet spot where both of them could breathe and reset. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with hues of orange that seemed to ease the tension of the day. Keanu walked in silence while Buddy, still slightly shaken, stayed close, seeking reassurance in his human companion's presence. Their bond was already strong, but in this moment it seemed to deepen even further. Keanu, in his usual composed manner, made small gestures to comfort Buddy, a gentle pat on the head, soft murmured words, and occasional stops to let the dog sniff his surroundings. It was a simple yet meaningful act. Buddy in turn started to regain his confidence. His tail, initially low, began to lift again, swaying gently with each step. During their stroll, Keanu couldn't help but reflect on the events of the day. The senseless cruelty he had witnessed left him with a mix of sadness and anger. Yet looking at Buddy, he also felt inspired. The dog, despite his fear, bore no grudges. His nature was one of resilience. Keanu saw in Buddy a profound lesson, something he could carry into both his role as an actor and his own life. Buddy seemed to remind him that even in the face of pain, it was possible to move forward with courage. As they walked further, Keanu came across a small park. In its quiet serenity, he unhooked Buddy's leash, allowing him to run freely. The scene was simple, yet it held a unique beauty. Buddy dashed around with renewed energy as if shaking off all the fear and tension. Keanu sat on a bench, observing with a quiet but genuine smile. For a few fleeting moments, it felt like the world faded away, leaving only this peaceful connection between man and dog. By the time they returned to the set, night had fallen, and the stars had begun to emerge. Keanu fastened the leash once more, and the two walked side by side, more connected than ever. What neither of them knew was that this peaceful evening was merely the calm before another storm. Something unexpected lay ahead. ready to test their strengthened bond even further. The night had just begun when Keanu, still with Buddy by his side, decided to explore a neighborhood near the set. The choice seemed innocent, almost like a desire to experience something different before returning to work the next day. But the neighborhood he chose carried a heavy atmosphere, with dimly lit streets and building facades that stood as silent witnesses to untold stories. Turning a corner, Keanu spotted the Iron and Ash Bar, a place that exuded equal parts danger and intrigue. The motorcycles parked out front and the muffled sounds of raucous laughter and gruff music hinted that he was stepping into unfamiliar territory. Keanu pushed open the heavy door, and for a moment, the bar seemed to freeze. The patron's eyes turned toward him and Buddy, assessing the stranger who had just walked in. The air was dense, filled with cigarette smoke and the smell of cheap alcohol. Men clad in leather jackets, their arms and necks covered in tattoos, formed small groups around tables while others played pool or watched from the corners like predators waiting for a misstep. Buddy, true to his confident temperament, stayed close to Keanu, alert but unafraid. Choosing a table in the corner, Keanu remained quiet, observing everything around him with an almost unsettling calm. He knew this wasn't a place where one could afford to let their guard down. Meanwhile, Buddy seemed to sense the tension in the air, his behavior subtly changing as if he could detect something invisible. A waiter approached the table, his expression more curious than welcoming, and Keanu ordered only water, a request that already marked him as an outsider. The atmosphere shifted when one of the bikers, visibly drunk, noticed Buddy. With a malicious grin, he pointed at the dog, making a loud comment that was meant to be heard by everyone. The words dripped with disdain and provocation, something Keanu couldn't ignore, yet he maintained his composure, merely meeting the man's gaze with a steady, unflinching stare. The biker, clearly feeling challenged, smirked, and started moving toward their table. Buddy, unaware of the human intentions around him, remained calm by Keanu's side, but the tension in the bar grew with every passing second, as if everyone was waiting to see who would make the next move. Keanu knew this place offered no safety, not for him and certainly not for Buddy. Still, he also understood that letting this provocation slide could lead to even greater consequences. The stage was set for a conflict no one could fully predict. The bitter air in the Iron and Ash Bar felt electrified. The almost tangible silence was broken only by the muffled sound of music in the background as every eye fixated on the table where Keanu and Buddy sat. The biker who had made the provocative comment about Buddy approached, his heavy steps echoing on the worn wooden floor. He carried a smirk dripping with arrogance, clearly attempting to prove something to the impromptu audience. "That dog's a joke," he muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, eliciting scattered laughter from his companions. Keanu remained seated, but his eyes locked onto the man's with an intensity that made the biker falter for a brief moment. "It's not a good idea to insult something or someone you don't know," Keanu responded, his voice firm yet calm, as though weighing each word. The entire bar held its breath. Keanu's peaceful demeanor masked a latent strength that didn't go unnoticed. Buddy, sitting faithfully at his side, seemed to sense his owner's energy, staying still but keeping a watchful gaze on every movement. The biker, clearly unsettled by Keanu's calmness, took a step closer, defiant. "And what are you going to do about it?" he taunted, leaning in to meet Keanu's gaze up close. The actor, known for his patience and tranquil nature, rose slowly to his feet, causing the biker to realize he had underestimated his opponent. "I won't need to do anything," Keanu replied, his voice barely above a whisper but carrying a weight that silenced the entire room. The tension peaked when the biker, in a rash and impulsive move, tried to reach for Buddy, perhaps to assert his dominance. Before he could complete the motion, Keanu grabbed his wrist with lightning-fast reflexes. The grip wasn't violent, but it was firm enough to make a statement. This wouldn't be tolerated. "This is the only warning you'll get," Keanu said, his tone steady and unyielding. The bar, previously ready to erupt in chaos, now seemed frozen in suspense. The biker pulled back, clearly shocked and slightly humiliated. Yet the unease in the bar didn't dissipate. Keanu knew that this was far from over. Placing Buddy protectively behind him, his sharp eyes scanned the room, anticipating any further escalation. The atmosphere in Iron and Ash felt like a powder keg on the verge of exploding, and Keanu understood that the next move was out of his control. Something was coming, and it wouldn't be good. Dawn brought a deceptive sense of relief for Keanu and Buddy. After the tense confrontation at the bar, Keanu believed the worst was behind them. but he couldn't have foreseen the depths of cruelty that were still to come. As they walked through the neighborhood attempting to shake off the events of the previous night, Buddy began to act strangely. He stumbled. His breathing grew labored, and the energetic dog who had been Keanu's constant companion now seemed to be battling something unseen. Alarmed, Keanu crouched down to check on Buddy and realized that something was terribly wrong. Chilling thought crossed his mind. Could this be poisoning? The memory of the biker and the hostile atmosphere at the bar came rushing back. The possibility of this being an act of revenge felt disturbingly real. Keanu's heart ached at the thought of Buddy's suffering, a being so pure and defenseless. Without wasting a moment, he scooped Buddy into his arms and began running through the streets in search of help. Each step felt like an eternity, with Buddy weakly clinging to consciousness in his arms. Finally, Keanu spotted a small veterinary clinic. Its unassuming exterior concealed the hope he desperately needed. Bursting through the door, he urgently explained the situation to the staff, who quickly took Buddy into the emergency room. Time seemed to stand still as Keanu waited. Every minute felt like a cruel test of patience and faith. He paced back and forth, his mind racing with thoughts of how someone could commit such a heinous act. More importantly, he wondered, would Buddy survive? After what felt like hours, the veterinarian emerged with a serious yet hopeful expression. "You got here just in time," they said, explaining that Buddy had ingested a highly toxic substance but was responding well to treatment. Relief washed over Keanu, but it was accompanied by a surge of anger. Buddy's survival was a testament to his resilience, but the act of cruelty could not go unanswered. The pit bull, still weak, would need to stay under observation, but the veterinarian's eyes conveyed an unmistakable message. Buddy was a fighter. Sitting by Buddy's side, holding his paw and whispering words of encouragement, Keanu's resolve solidified. This act of malice could not go unpunished. He knew he had to act, not just for Buddy, but to ensure that no one else would endure such pain. The moment to seek justice was near, and Keanu was prepared to do whatever it took to make things right. While Buddy recovered, Keanu spent hours reflecting on the events that had unfolded. The deliberate cruelty against an innocent being was something he couldn't accept. Justice had to be served, not just for Buddy, but to send a clear message that such acts would have consequences. With his mind made up, Keanu picked up his phone and contacted the local authorities. He knew that breaking this cycle of violence would take more than words. It would require evidence and cooperation. When the police arrived at the veterinary clinic, Keanu recounted everything with remarkable clarity. He described the incident at the bar, the faces of the bikers, and the series of events that led to Buddy's condition. His celebrity status could have been a hindrance, but the determination and sincerity in his voice convinced the officers that this wasn't just another frivolous complaint. They encouraged him to formally file a report promising to act swiftly to investigate the matter. The following days were intense. Keanu closely followed the investigation, providing information and even securing footage from nearby security cameras that captured the bikers' actions. Meanwhile, Buddy continued his recovery, growing stronger. Each day, a living symbol of resilience. Watching Buddy's progress brought Keanu both relief and motivation. He knew that even after Buddy fully recovered, the fight against this injustice couldn't stop there. The breakthrough came when the police identified the leader of the gang responsible for the poisoning. Armed with the evidence gathered and Keanu's testimony, the officers launched a coordinated operation to apprehend those involved. News of the arrests spread quickly, bringing a sense of relief and satisfaction to everyone who had followed the story. Though Keanu had never sought the spotlight, the public's response revealed an even deeper admiration for him, not just as an actor, but as someone who stood up for what was right. In the end, Buddy made a full recovery and was back at Keanu's side, stronger than ever. As Keanu watched his loyal companion, he felt a mix of pride and gratitude. Justice had been served, but the true impact of the story lay in the lesson it left behind. Cruelty had been confronted, wrongdoing had its consequences, and the bond between Keanu and Buddy had grown even stronger. As they walked the streets together once more, it felt as though something greater had been achieved. Not just survival, but a reaffirmation of values like courage, empathy, and justice. Stories like this make us reflect on the impact of our actions and the strength of a bond that transcends words. Keanu Reeves showed us that even in the midst of cruelty and chaos, determination and true love can bring justice and redemption. But now, I ask you, what would you have done in his place? Have you ever witnessed an act of cruelty and felt unsure of how to act? Share your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. Here we always bring you incredible stories like this one, stories that inspire, move, and make us see the world in a different light. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.